And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the Connected for Real podcast. I'm Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman, and I am a marriage coach for women in business. What that means is that I love the intersection between marriage and business and how they pull you apart and how we can make them work together and how you can get them to support each other and how you can get them to be in alignment, and have a life that feels in flow. That's all the stuff that I do, and I love what I do. And as you know, in this podcast, we talk about the 4 pillars. So there's God at the core, marriage and business working together, and you as your whole self, the container that holds all these beautiful things that are in your life, right? And today, specifically, we're talking about the first pillar, God. And our topic is dating. So, what better guest to have than Mindel Kassorla? And I'm going to let Mindel introduce herself, and then we're going to get right into it, dating and God. So, Mindel, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. So I am so excited to be here with Bat-Chen Grossman, Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman. Me and her go way back to even before she necessarily called herself Rebbetzin, so that's why I made that slip. We are good friends because we used to do graphic design together. So she is a multi-talented individual who uses all of her strengths and also a role model for me because I try to do the same. I have a lot of different interests, but the main one we're going to focus on today is that I really try to help people find their soulmate and to build a strong home on a foundation of God with that person. And today I'd really just love to share with you how I try to help singles through the dating process, and that it shouldn't just be something that they're trying to get past, but something that they grow through so that when they actually do get to the point of marriage, they've gained something from this whole process. That's my goal.
I love it. I love it. I love it so much because, yes, it's not something to just get through. Like, oh, I just need to, check the box and be married. And by the way, I find that a lot of people end up working with me because they felt like they just needed to get to the other side and they didn't
Right.
process the process of dating.
It's true in so many areas, Bat-Chen. Like it's in so many stages, we just look at it as kind of like a pathway to the next instead of something to enjoy for what it is. Like pregnancy, like schooling, anything. It is such an experience to build your self-awareness and to learn more about who you are. And I think sometimes we really miss sight of that.
Yes. Yes. Guys, life is a journey. Every single part of our life is a journey. We're all inside a journey. It's so true. Okay, so let's get right into it. What do you have to say about dating first in general, and then we'll get really into the practical nitty-gritties.
Okay, so I would say that my approach in general, they called me a shadchan or a matchmaker. I think everybody might be hearing in the background like some Fiddler on the Roof tunes going on now. Um, I'm that go-between, right? I'm that person who will look at you as a whole person and try to figure out what defines you and yourself and discuss that with you. And then I'm going to try and find somebody who matches those values. And I think even the daters themselves sometimes get a little bit caught up in nitty gritty details. And I'm always trying to kind of see a larger picture and also help them see that picture. So I act as the go between. And my goal in being that go between is to really make the process as focused and as growth oriented as possible, and to really limit the amount of pain and agony that can happen through dating, although pain and agony are part of dating, but they don't have to be so intense. And I as my goal, I really try to be that person to make things softer and easier to swallow, and to help this couple build the relationship, or to have the clarity to end the relationship if it's not going anywhere.
Yes. Oh my gosh, talking about dating throws me back 20 years. Feel like, what? It's been 20 years. But
I still wake
it
up. Sorry about
what?
that. I still wake up from nightmares that I'm like back in that stage, like still dating. And then I like wake up in a cold sweat and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have to go through that anymore.
Yes.
It was hard.
No, so I actually think that I grew a lot through the dating process because you know me, I'm an intentional person. So I
Yeah.
used to write down what I learned from that date, and I would really give myself these little mini challenges of, even though it didn't work out, what did I learn? And even, what did I learn about myself? What did I learn about what I'm looking for? Right. And of course, there were the times that I got overwhelmed or it really hit me. I remember one time I went out with somebody and I got sick the next day that he told me, like when he said no, right away, like it hit me. I got a sore throat and I was sick for a whole week. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it was so correlated. Like I know it was, right?
Right.
Because I was disappointed and here I went out and I, put myself out there and it's such a hard thing to go through. And so of course, like
Totally.
it took me straight to my, to my body, straight into my protective mechanism of like, okay, we're not going out this week anymore. We have to take a break. It was, by the way, I think I went out with 5 guys in 1 week. And that
Oh
that
my
was the
gosh.
5. So my body was already overwhelmed. Um, there's just a lot that goes on in that process, and it's an intense process. And by the way, every intense process is going to have that intense growth, right? So
Right.
like in business they tell you, if you go into a launch, that launch is going to make you grow because it's an intense process of trying to
Mm-hmm.
launch something, right? So I think that's just natural.
I just wanted to comment on what you said about, after each date, writing down something you learned or that you gained. And whenever I meet with people for the first time, I always like to say it's kind of more of a cliche line, right? Each person you meet brings you closer to your soulmate. And I think people usually think of that in more esoteric terms, like God has this plan that you have to meet so many people until you meet your soulmate. But I tell them it's not just esoteric, it's very practical. Every person you meet brings out another part of you, teaches you something about what you're looking for, what you're not looking for, about what's important to you. And it actually brings you closer to your soulmate in a very tangible way.
Right. And I want to say something, I'm not sure if it's about the number of people you have to go through or if it's, you have to learn certain things along the way. And
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like if you didn't learn it the first time, you're going to have to deal with it the second time. And sometimes you start seeing patterns, like I keep going out with the same type of issue, or I keep going out and something keeps coming up.
Right.
What am I supposed to learn from this, right? Because it's not going to go away until you learn what you need to learn.
I was literally just talking to someone else's mentor, a girl who's dating now, about that exact topic. That often when I see people start dating, they have sort of repeated patterns of reasons why they say no, and they don't, either that they're too quick to give something a chance, or they're too lenient and they just let themselves keep going when they really shouldn't, or they're very nitpicky about something, or they're just willing to go out with anybody. And there are these common mistakes, and I always find that the exact things that they said no to somebody for in the beginning often are something that they ease up about when they meet their spouse. And it's almost as if in the beginning that was them, and God sent them that person, and that wasn't going to be the person they were going to marry. And even though they shouldn't have said no for that reason, and maybe it was nitpicky, but that wasn't their soulmate. And as they went through that process, when God sees, okay, you've worked on yourself, now I'm going to send you the person who you're going to be able to see in the right perspective. It's like you said, it's not the number of people, it's a process of growth, that when you've completed that process, then you're ready to find the person you're supposed to marry.
Yes. Yes. And I think that, in the dating topic, right? There's like the 4 pillars. And most of the things that keep coming up are the fact that, we have to focus on ourselves, focus on our growth, and be in the process, right? Instead of trying to get over it and just, get on with the show. There's so much to learn about yourself. There's so much to prepare. There's so much to create, sort of like expand to allow for this new abundance to come in. And I wonder if we're really aware of how much God is running the world, right? Like, because
Yeah.
we tend to be so grabby, like I'm doing this with my hands because that's what it feels like. It's like it's controlling. It's this
Right.
grabbiness of like, it has to be done this way, or it should be this way, or things have to work out, whatever. And a lot of times we end up creating or gaining a lot of baggage throughout this process because and today I heard the most fascinating thing. The what did she say? I was in a class with Leora, and she said we were learning Shar HaBitachon, the gate of trust,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about making a decision. So um, the what was it called?
It's from Chovot Halavavot, like duties of the heart.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
but no, she was talking about the fact that you have two choices.
Right.
Oh, the fantasy of the unchosen. That's what she called it. And
Oh,
she basically said there's two choices, and there's there's always going to be the choice you didn't choose. So then your
mm-hmm.
brain starts going into a whole fantasy about like how was it supposed to go, and what if I would have gone there, and
Right.
so then we end up having all these thoughts and all these emotions about how things could have gone and how things should have gone and what's going on and this and that, right? And it's exhausting, it's draining, and it's not actually
So
serving
exhausting.
us because we don't know.
Yeah, I think that doubt is one of the most intense feelings that people have in the dating process. There's a lot of self doubt, a lot of I'm not sure, I don't know, maybe, could be, not, and a lot of lack of clarity. So I'll tell you, there's two pieces to that. I always tell the people who meet with me that before each date, they should pray for clarity and that it should be mutual. Not that it should go well. We don't know it's supposed to go well. We don't know that this is supposed to be the person you're supposed to marry. But clarity, that you ask God to show you what it is you need to see to make a very clear decision. Like I think about it when I was dating. I would say, God, if this isn't my guy, then let me hate everything about him and just know with clarity he's not for me. And if he is, just let me fall absolutely in love with him and love everything about him. And I won't have any doubts. And yeah, okay, fine. You can show me the bad stuff later, because there's always bad stuff. But um I think it gives people a lot of grounding. And that's the second piece, that once you've prayed for that, you're able to put a lot more trust in the process and trust in God to guide you. So you don't really feel like you're making this decision alone. You feel like if I pray to God to give me that clarity, then what I see is what I see. And I'm going to do the best I can with what I see, even though it's so hard to make these kinds of decisions. And people get really stuck on the decision piece. A no
Yeah.
is just as hard as a yes.
Oh, you know what? I think a maybe is the worst.
Yes, actually, I don't know if you're familiar with Eliza Ben Shalom. She's a
Yes,
very big.
she was a guest.
Okay, awesome. So, it was about a year and a half ago. I ran this seminar for hundreds of women in my community. Some were dating, some had daughters who were dating, and we had a huge lineup of awesome speakers. And Eliza Ben Shalom was one of them. Definitely one of the most dynamic people we had on the lineup. And she did this really cool thing with the audience where she said, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up. Now don't sit, kind of like squat as you're about to sit down, but don't let yourself sit. And she said, hold it. And she's telling the whole audience, like, hold it, hold it. And then she goes, okay, now you can sit. And she says, that's what a maybe feels like. We have such a hard time holding the maybes.
Right.
Maybes feel very uncomfortable. So we'll either just go forward when we shouldn't, or we will say no. More often, people just say no because they don't want to hold a maybe. You know what is one of the most common things I hear, especially from women who are dating? I don't know if I should go out again. I'm just going to say no because I don't want to waste anyone's time. And I say back to that, you are not wasting someone's time if you're just trying to sincerely get to know them better. Don't be scared to give it another shot. Don't be scared. I have no problem with you coming back to me after 2 more dates and saying, Mrs. Kassorla, I told you so. It wasn't for me. I'll be like, okay. So now you were able to say it with clarity. Before you were just guessing. Say it
Right.
with clarity.
And then, if you don't actually find the clarity, then you end up having that maybe I did the wrong thing or maybe I should have gone.
Exactly.
And it's like so much easier to just be done with it and put it down and move on. One of the things
By the
I
way,
really, yeah,
sorry, one more point on that. I find that for people, it's much harder, even though it's counterintuitive, much harder to say no than to be said no to. They would rather
mm,
the decision fall into the other person's lap. And just like you're saying, if they say no, then they almost always walk away with doubt. If the other person says no, they have very few regrets. There's not so much they could control. But if it was
right.
me, then oh my God, like maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I'm going to be single the rest of my life. It's very scary.
I think that one of the things that kept me going and kept me alive throughout the whole process was this belief, and this is 100% bitachon, right?
Yeah.
Exclusive trust in God, that God is going, He has a plan for me. This is all already worked out. He's orchestrating, the whole plan is planned out. And I just need to go through the motion. But I knew 100% that I was going to be married to an amazing guy and I was going to end up in like the best place for me. And knowing that and just holding on to that vision and that goal in my mind kept me going. It was like, okay, so like you said, I'm one step closer to the goal. But if a person keeps telling themselves, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up like single forever and I'm never going to find anyone, and he doesn't even exist because I'm looking for a unicorn and blah 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 blah, then that negative self-talk creates the reality of like, why? There's no
Yeah.
point. What is the point of going out again and again and again if I keep telling myself I'm going to end up single?
Right. So that's another challenge I find, aside from the doubt, right? Is the jadedness. I don't want to keep trying. It's the same old thing over and over again. Why keep going on with this? Each one, okay, whatever. Like I'll do it because they told me, but there's no excitement. When there's no excitement going into the date, it is almost 100% chance of failure. And
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is giving yourself healthy breaks, is a lot of self-care and compassion while you're going through the process, is a lot of just self-care spiritually, especially really, really having like good connections, good friendships, good mentorships that are outside of the dating. And if you're sucked into it all the time and it becomes your only reality, then yeah, you do get jaded. You have to build yourself outside of that also, so that you have something to give, right? If the only thing you have to talk about on the date with the guy is all the people you dated the past 3 weeks, then that's like really like, ew. You
Yeah.
need
You know
more
what?
to yourself to talk about.
I'd love to add to that. I think that you have to realize that you're still living, right? Like being single is not death, right? Like being single just means that you are single. That is just your status. But you're still alive. You still have things that make you happy. You still have things that, get you all excited. You still have things that you like to
Right.
do. Please give yourself permission to love life and be excited and live. I remember going to all these classes and doing art and going on, walks and just having a good time with myself and connecting to what I liked, because it's the best way to, just do the thing you're doing, like nothing
So
is
that's
in your way.
huge. It's like,
What?
I have to say that what I said before about, um, when we talk about each person you meet, it's not just esoteric, it's also practical. So what you're saying now, I'm going to say the opposite. It's not just a practical thing, like it'll keep you happy. There's an esoteric spiritual power when a person can go through that time period besimcha, with joy, because remember we were saying before about how each person has to go through a process. So if you're somebody who just is like, I don't like this, I want to move to the next stage, I'm not happy with whatever God gives me, I don't like my life so much, whatever, just get me through this process, then you're not going to be a great marriage partner. Marriage has lots of stages and lots of places where you could, get stuck or feel uncomfortable. You need to be able to almost show God and say like, I am really happy with it, with whatever you throw my way. I have faith in the process, and I'm joyful with everything I have. I recognize the blessings in my life. I'm just going to share a personal story. When I started dating, I was very blessed. I didn't date for too long, but the amount of time, once you start, it feels like ages. It doesn't really
It's like
matter.
it's like the pregnancy is 8 months and then a year, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So when I started dating, I was really invested in it, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm ready to build my home, get out of this situation. I was a dorm counselor with a bunch of whiny girls and no privacy, and and I just really wanted to get myself out of there. And then I took a really big jump of trying to be more self-aware, and I met with a life coach. And the first thing she focused on was, what is it you're looking forward to when you get married? And you know what I said? It was so embarrassing. I said, I want my own kitchen. I just want to be able to cook good food. So she said, let's get you good food now. What plans can we make so that you can have good meals now? I wasn't having any time to cook healthy meals. And we figured it out. And I have to tell you, it was life altering in that moment to realize I can have joy where I am right now. And the next month, I met my husband. And there's no
Yes.
coincidence. I
No,
felt
it's
like when I
complete.
said to God, I'm happy where I am, he said, okay, great. I'm going to give you more.
Yeah. It's so true. And I have on the other side of the coin, people who got married and then are like, now I need a baby and I need it now and I'm ready and
Mm-hmm.
my husband's not ready. And I don't have just one of those clients. There's a bunch of people who are really obsessed over getting to the next stage, right? Like,
Oh, and then the
and here
baby's
I
born
am.
and then they want it to walk and talk.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, forget it. I just want them to be independent. And then you're walking them down the aisle. You're like, oh no, everything, it goes so fast. And we just keep trying to jump stages.
Yes, but that's the whole thing, that if you can't be happy where you are now, then this actually came up in one of my meditations early on. I got, we had to meet with our future self or something, and she said, if you can't be now, you won't be able to be now later. That's what she told me. Now, of course, the thing that cracked me up is that my future self is just as make up words as I am right now. So, like, guys, don't worry, nothing will change. I'm still going to be talking like I talk, making up sentences that don't make sense. But it was so perfect because, like, if you can't be present right now where you are without clients, with all this frustration, with trying to work hard at, doing all the things and not really seeing results, then once you have the results and once you have the clients, you're not going to be able to be now later, right? You're not going to be present even when everything works out. So it was one of the best things that happened to me, right? Getting that message from my future self, because it forced me to constantly bring myself back to, well, this is where I am right now. And when I have
Mm-hmm.
clients, I'll have clients and I'll be fine. Like, either way, I'm still okay. I'm still happy. I'm still alive. And you know what? I feel like now that I am on the other side, and this is very fun for me to talk about because I totally forgot about it until you were talking, is like, so many years later, and I'm sitting here, I have a podcast, I have clients, I'm
Yeah.
actually successful. Like, this is so fun. Thank you, God. Right. And I'm able to be present. Of course, I still have my moments where I'm like, okay, I want more. Where do I get the next one? What do like that's a normal reaction. But for the most part, I'm able to have a schedule and a routine, and my entire calendar is filled with all these things that make me happy no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter if I have a client or not. I'm still going to that art workshop thing on Wednesday, right? I'm excited about it because that's what makes me come alive.
So I'll tell you, you just reminded me also of um, a mashal, a parable that one of my favorite teachers, her name is Mrs. Dina Spoonmaker. She's a big role model for me and a mentor of mine to this day. When people are very growth oriented, so they're generally not going to be content with the stage they're at, and then they're going to look towards something in the future. But she says that, imagine you have somebody who is looking to buy a new house. They have a small house, they want to buy a bigger house. So they find a house that's for sale and they buy it. But in the meantime, it has to undergo like major renovations, and they're gutting it. All those renovations are going on. They sell their car and house because they're thinking, well, I don't need this house anymore. This one, I outgrew it, and it's uncomfortable and it's gross, and I just want my new house. but the new house isn't ready yet. And she says, life is about being able to live between the two realities, that you are growth oriented and you're looking towards a future, but you still have to live in the now, and you have to live with who you are today. So even though you want to be X in the future, right now you're Y. And if you're not happy with that, you're not going to get to X. You've got to be able to be content with the me now and be growth oriented. And I think that this is something that we have a very hard time with, when you have to hold two realities. It's a difficult thing today that people want to just be able to pick and stick themselves there instead of holding both.
Yeah, and you know what the beauty is with that, this is exactly what we're expected to do, right? Because on one hand, God gives us everything we need. We have this, total promise from God. I've got you. Everything you need, you have. There is absolutely nothing that you need that you're going to be lacking. But I'm also going to give you the want, that thing inside that wants more, because that's what's going to motivate you to get to the next level, right? That's what's going to motivate you to always go and try to fill the lack that God created in the world. So there's this wait, if I want more, am I not grateful? If I'm grateful, then do I just passively live through life being well, this is all it is? No, we're actually meant to hold both, because that's how God created the world.
We see that reflected so perfectly in the idea of prayer. Prayer is that moment where you say, God, there are some things that I want different. I want this. I want that. I want. And then you close the siddur, close the prayer book of whatever kind, and then you live life. And that's where faith comes in. There's a time for that kind of questioning and asking and saying, this is where I'm striving or wish I could have something different. And there's a time for contentment. And we have to be able to live in both realities and know when to compartmentalize properly. It's also so powerful in the dating process to see people grow towards that they have a very hard time with any of the holding both about two people, to be able to look at someone as a composite figure, and he can be this and this, she can be that and that, and they're not a contradiction, and that's okay. And I can be the way I am, and they can be the way they are, and that's also okay. That's what a marriage is. I mean, we are combining a male and a female, so they are about as different as can possibly be. And you're going to put two people who are total opposites into a house. That's what a house is doing. It's holding both. It's holding two total opposites. And that's why we say that's where we find God in the home. God is in the home because that's where we take opposites and we put them together, and we see that everything is really unity. And that's what God is. God is complete unity. God is not just the dark or the light. God is everything. And when we see that two people who are so different can come together, that's the presence of God.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. And this is exactly what I do, by the way, with the marriage and business. I bring God into it, and then everything just sort of falls into place, because once you have alignment to the main core, then everything else works. Everything else falls into place. Everything else just comes together so beautifully. And a lot of people are like, I don't know what you did, but it worked, right? I just had a client tell me this. We had a session on Sunday, and now is Monday. And she's like, I don't know what you did, but today was the most productive day of my life, right? I did not much, right? We did a meditation. We did deep work, but I didn't do anything. I just allowed her to connect deeper to God and allow him into her life so he can be a part of running the show, or, more like let him run the show. It changes your life, and you don't realize the potential of that until you let it in, and then you're blown away.
So I speak to my students about this a lot. I teach in seminaries in Israel, and I have students who are post high school, and I teach them about, bitachon, putting your trust in God. We do maybe like a version of the trust game, right? They fall backwards, the friend has to catch them. And then I always tell them this story, and it gets them cracking up every time. So I hope you laugh. But I tell them how there was a man who was standing on the edge of a cliff, and he's looking over the edge. And then all of a sudden, whoops, he slips and he falls over the side, and he's like scraping down the side of this massive cliff, and he grabs onto a tiny little branch, and he's hanging on for dear life, right, to this little branch. And he's watching the branch kind of like snap, 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 ready to fall. And he's like, whoa, God, what am I going to do? And then all of a sudden, this voice comes out from the heavens and says, this is God. And he's like, oh my God, I must have died. No, this is God. I have the power to save you, and I'm going to do it, but I just got to ask you one thing. And the guy's like, anything, you know what? I'll be the best. I'll give all my money to charity, like whatever you want. And God goes, you got to let go of the branch. And he's like, no, sorry, God can't do that. And that's really what our Creator wants from us, to just let go. Let
Let go.
be with God in that process and say, I'm really not in this alone at all. I'm totally being supported.
Right.
And just realize that. But we have such a hard time letting go of our little branches.
Oh, yes. And that's the control that we have. That's the grabbiness. It's like we think that, yeah, God, I know you know better, but like I really think I know what I'm doing,
Yeah. Like my 5-year-old, when I'm like, okay, it's time to go inside. No, mommy, I want to tell you something. It's time to go inside. But mommy, there's
a problem with your mic.
Hey, I think you know better.
There you are. You're back.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I don't know why I blacked out. But I was saying we're like little kids who just can't admit that God knows better.
Yes. And once we do admit, then it always works.
Yeah.
Right? It always works. It's just one of those things that is fail proof. And it is so hard
because it goes both ways. At that point, there's no bad turnout.
Right.
Once you
Mindel, you're going in and out. What's going on with your internet?
Me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, let's try again. Okay. I was saying that it goes both ways, that no matter what happens at that point, no matter the outcome, you're so content. They say that when a child crosses the street, a little child crosses the street in a stroller with their parent, so they're not looking around thinking, oh, no, maybe a car's going to hit me. What's going to happen? They just go. And when we do that, then whether things turn out the way I wanted or differently, and smile, and it's all good because I just trust.
Right. Okay, so you got cut off at if things go the way I want or if they go differently.
I don't know what's going on because I see my connection running. Let me see if I can just move spots for just a second, and we'll hope for the best. Pray a little bit. Okay.
We're praying.
Here we go. Okay.
No, we just lost you again. It keeps going in and out. Oh, you guys, Mindel's such a good guest. How can we?
Okay, hang on. Okay, how's it going now? You hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I was just saying, I'm not going to repeat everything, but that once you've accepted that God is guiding you, there is no bad outcome.
Right.
Whether it's the thing you wanted or it's something else, it's all good because God is good.
Yes.
And it's a very calming feeling to just be able to put your trust in something higher than you, and then just be able to be like that, that.
Oh, she got broke up again. Toop.
My internet is stable. I'm not sure what's going on.
So is mine. I really hope that. Anyway.
Try me again. Let's go.
Let me tell you something. I think that our conversation is bringing me very clearly to recommending anybody who is having a hard time with any of the process of trusting in God, or, with dating, with money, with whatever it is, go and check out The Gate of Trust. This book will change your life. And specifically, I really like the one that Chabad came out with. It's white, it's beautiful, and it is so well written and easy to read. The translation flows, so you don't feel like you're choppy. You feel like it's just really reading, easily. And there's explanations on the bottom, there's stories, there's things, but like, it is one of the biggest life-changing books that you can read in order to get rid of God baggage and in order to realign. Can you see if you could speak, Mindel? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Great. Okay. I'm talking. Testing. 1, 2. Okay. I have an acronym that I tell my students, that I say in Hebrew, the pasuk, the verse tells us, Hashlich al Hashem Yahavcha. Pass your burden onto Hashem. Pass, like to pass it over to Hashem, to God. And I say pass. Let's say we spell out pass, P-A-S-S. So it's an acronym.
It's an acronym, and now she just broke up, so we're going to remind her to talk about the acronym again.
I don't know what's going on. Okay, 1 second. Hang on. Okay.
Okay, pass. P-A-S-S. That's what we're up to.
Okay. Tell me how this is. Okay. So the acronym is PASS, P-A-S-S, and it stands for, P is for plan. Okay. Plan, but be willing to change the plan. Meaning we make a plan, right? Man plans, God laughs. Okay. So I don't think God is laughing when you're struggling. I don't love that line, but plan and just be open to changing the plan. Go with the flow. Whatever happens, it'll be okay. We'll manage. We'll be flexible. Right. Yeah. Okay. A stands for assure. You can do new things. You can make yourself vulnerable, and it'll be okay. That's the assure. Okay.
Wait, say assure again, because we missed
assure.
it.
So assure stands for basically assuring yourself that you can do this, that you are capable, that you can handle challenge, you can handle adversity, you can handle struggle, more than sometimes we give ourselves credit for. I think a lot of times we tell ourselves a lot of negative self-talk, like, I can't handle if that happens. I can't handle another failed dating experience. I can't handle if he breaks up with me. I can't handle if he Stop trying to find the solutions. God is way more creative than we are. We don't have to find all the answers, right? If you're thinking like, I'm looking for a guy who's this and this and this, and I'm coming from this background and this type of thing, and I don't know, I don't think highly of myself. I don't know, whatever it is you think. How is God ever going to find me somebody if I am whatever? You don't have to come up with the answers. Stop trying to get all the answers, right?
That's the first S, yeah?
That's the first S. Yes, that's the first S.
Stop. Okay. Wait, now we can't hear you, so. Guys, we're in acceptance of the situation.
Acceptance. We're practicing trust. Okay. You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
the last
I hear
S
you.
is seek. Seek God, as in pray. Look for God's hand. Seek the signs that God is with you. Seek out things to be gracious for. That's seek. And really, I think that it's a formula of living in this world and planning and doing, and at the same time taking a back seat and saying, I'm not driving the car.
Yes. And in the book of The Gate of Trust, one of the beautiful things he says is that trusting, having bitachon, is, we think that you trust and the results will, come out the way you want. That's not really how it works. The trust It's almost like, there's, God gives you a check. You won the lottery or whatever, and you go with this check to, the supermarket, and you're like, oh, I just want to cash this in. They're like, we don't have enough money to cash that in, right? There is not a single supermarket or town or anything that can cash that much money in. Even the banks won't be able to cash that amount. And you realize, oh, so what do I do? Right? Like, I have all this, result of having trust, but it's not cashable in this world. But what is cashable is that you had peace of mind, right? Shalvat nefesh. There's like this calmness in your soul that kept you through the process. That is the result that's the most tangible. Oh, and she disappeared completely. Well, you guys listening in a podcast should just know that we're having technical difficulties, but we're getting through it, and it's gonna be okay. So as I was saying, while she's coming back on, is that we want things, so we say, okay, so trust and you'll get them. And in reality, trusting is the way to have that peace of mind, to stay calm in the moment when you have the doubts, when you don't know what the result's going to be, when you are, between here and there, almost like hanging by a thread. If you have the ability to trust God and hold on to that, real exclusive trust in God, then you're going to go through that situation in such a calm way. And that is the ultimate result. Then what happens after that is, if it's the right thing for you, then you're going to get it, and we believe that you're going to get all the good things if you can trust. Why? Because a lot of the times when things feel stuck, they are obstacles to wake you up, to make you more conscious, to be like, yo, hello, you're not connected. You need to connect to God. And then as soon as you connect to God, then the obstacles can go away. They no longer serve you. They no longer are necessary for you to move forward, right? And then you can get to the destination. So getting to the destination isn't necessarily the result or the the goal, but you end up getting there anyway because you don't need the obstacle anymore. One of my favorite things to do, is explain about the phone, right? So I put an alarm on my phone, a timer, and then when the timer goes on, does a normal person start screaming at their timer like, why are you waking me up? Why are you making noise? This is so annoying. No, like, oh, okay, so it's time to wake up, and you turn off the beeper, right? That's exactly what obstacles are here for. They're just here to wake you up. So instead of being all annoyed about the obstacle and, I can't believe this is happening to me, I don't know, what does this mean? Be like, oh, okay, it's just here to wake me up. Fine. Wake up and move on. And waking up means bringing God in. Waking up means becoming conscious that there is something higher, that there is something bigger, that I am just a little pawn in the game, but really there's an orchestrator who is running the show and knows exactly what I need to be doing, and is showing me the right direction. It's showing me the next play. It's showing me the next move. I just need to follow. I need to, go with that flow. And I love that. So I'm really hoping that Mindel can come back on, because I really love Mindel. As she said, we used to be, co-workers at Van Gassner, which is like the best place to work. And it was so fun to be like, computer next to computer and talk along the way. It was, fascinating. We are both very inspirational people. So we used to go through a lot of time of coming up with ways that inspire and, all sorts of cool stuff. So yeah, if anybody is here live and wants to ask a question, we are taking questions right now. And if not, oh, I see somebody said hi in the comments. So that's exciting. Hi, good to see you. Oh, you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you about my new challenge. I am just planning it now, but it's going to be in 2 weeks, March 10th. There's going to be a 5-day challenge. It's going to be all about overwhelm. It's called the Unravel Overwhelm Challenge. And it's based on the guide to unravel overwhelm that I have. And you can go check it out at connectedforreal.com/guide. So go check that out, connectedforreal.com/guide. And, and once you're on my email list, we can definitely, you'll get all the details about how to join the challenge that I'm going to be sending emails soon. Let's see. Is Mindel coming back? Yes or no? If not, then, we're going to get on with it. I don't think it's working. Well, okay. This is life. It is what it is. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for your patience with our tech issues today. This is the first time this happens, which is very interesting. So definitely an exciting way to end a podcast. Thank you for listening. Make sure you come back next week for more amazing episodes. Actually, as Mindel said, we have some really great guests for this specific topic, dating. So if you're in the dating world, definitely come back and check it out. You can also subscribe and you'll get notified, and it's going to be really fun. As I said, check out connectedforreal.com/guide, and you'll be able to get onto my email list and hear all about what is going on right now. Don't forget to be connected for real. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye.